Okay. Well, thank you, Laura, for being willing to talk with us this evening. Would you like to introduce yourself real quick?
Sure, sure. Thanks, Dan. I'm Laura Bozeman. I'm a professor and program director at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, specifically the Vision Studies program. I'm also chair of the School for Global Inclusion and Social Development, but I think this revolves much more around our Vision Studies offerings. So I appreciate the chance to talk with you.
Thank you. So, so with the Vision Studies program that you're the director of, um, what programs did you have existing before you started a VRT track? What Vision
Mm.
Studies programs already existed?
Okay. The program at UMass Boston started as a result of Boston College closing down their orientation and mobility program a long time ago. And when I came, that was what was existing at UMass Boston was the orientation mobility options. And it was under and embedded within special education, even though orientation mobility covers the lifespan. The next one we added really quickly after I arrived was teacher of students with vision impairment. And then there was a little bit of a gap, and then we started noticing that there just really were not many options for people who wanted to pursue vision rehabilitation therapy. Just a few, just a handful in North America. And so it seemed to be a good time to do it. Florida State University had a program at the time, and then did not. They did that ended, and we just felt like that might be the best next step for trying to offer a comprehensive list sort of specializations for people in vision impairment.
And when you chose to add on vision rehab therapy, what did you need to add to the programs that you had already to start up a VRT track? What classes and what personnel did you need to add?
Right. Well, the the key was getting someone who's certified as a VRT. I am not, and we didn't have anyone certified as a vision rehab therapist at the time, and so hiring you, Dan, was a key for us. And then with your input and your help to develop the coursework, the method-specific coursework for VRT, that's what we needed because we had the foundation courses for our other tracks. We had Braille and psychosocial and anatomy, of course, and it used to be called low vision, but clinical and functional assessment of vision. Those things we had those, but we didn't have the really important methods courses that are specific to vision rehab therapy. We had the specific methods courses for TBI. We, of course, had them for orientation mobility, but we needed that specific content of those courses. So that's how we started, um, and needing to ultimately meet the accreditation requirements of AERAC that came along a little bit later, we needed to have at least a zero point 0.5 FTE person in that role of VRT. So,
Excellent. And then the only other class outside of those is the vocational placement class that we
right,
use as one of the electives, and so the rehabilitation department helps us with that course, the vocational
right,
rehabilitation. Yeah.
right. Our school has a rehabilitation counseling degree and content specialization, and rather than reinvent the wheel, they had that really nice vocational placement sort of background. If someone came in with an education background, they needed that content to be able to apply uh, to our existing VRT content at that time. So it was a nice way to collaborate with rehabilitation counseling, and we do that to this day, so it's helpful.
So what funding was available to assist you as you were trying to organize this new track?
Right. We we first started off paying for our VRT faculty person. We were paying for that through what was a method we were using at the time called revenue share. It's kind of like the program gets a percentage of the tuition that's paid in. Um, our university no longer uses that as a budgeting approach. It was wonderful for us because we could do so many entrepreneurial things with the monies that came in besides pay for the salary of our BRT person. But as the years went on, we established ourselves as a standalone program in vision studies and got out from under special education, which was nice, and advocated at that time for all of our program coordinators, the O&M specific folks, the VRT, certainly the TBI, and then we now have other specializations as well, that the university pays their salary. And so then we were using the revenue share approach to mainly support students. We'd get students who were living in situations of poverty or someone was ill in their family, and we were able to take that money and really meet individual needs as it came. So now we're trying to get used to a different budgeting model, which is, a little bit challenging sometimes. But that's how we started, and that was really helpful. There's also federal monies for basically we use these for tuition support from RSA and also some agencies help in supporting or partially supporting students who come through our programs. So that's our main focus, is trying to give the graduate students who come in some break in the tuition. We also have been really fortunate to have lower than typical tuition for our matriculated students. The right now the graduate coursework costs $575 for online, for remote, $575 per credit. And our tuition at UMass Boston is $350 per credit. It's still a heavy lift if you're having trouble, meeting your family bills and needs. And so the grants and agency support and private funding, we've had some good luck with private funding recently. Those are really important for people who want to come and get into this profession. So many of our students never heard of it before. And so many of our folks are second and third degree, third, not degree, career people. So typically have families and other obligations. It's a little different than maybe having a 20-year-old come in to your program, is still a little bit free and easy and doing well. So that's what we use those funds for, really, is to support um, the grad students in our program.
And typically when with our grants, we still have the students cover a portion of their tuition, and that's a little different than some of the other programs out there that choose to use the grant to cover 100% of the tuition. But we found that by having the students be responsible for some of the tuition, that they're more
Mhm.
invested in their education,
Mhm.
and then also by doing that, we can get the grant to more individuals as well by having a
Yeah,
not full amount. Yeah.
that's right. It only took the second time that I had someone contact me and say, I want a free master's. That didn't show me a lot of passion for our for our program. I understand wanting a free master's. I really do. And we delved deeper, and one person, it was just the way they said it. The other person literally had no clue about vision, no interest, quite frankly, that could be expressed, even giving them two shots at writing their letter of interest. It was just, I need a master's and I don't want to pay for it. And so we talked as a team and we decided that in general, students pay a small portion of the tuition and the grant or the funding covers the other. But as we have written different grants in recent years, sometimes we do pay for full tuition, but still typically as a rule. Students have to pay for their books, they have to pay for the one-time fees, things like that. But we're writing in a little bit more flexible stipend approach where we set aside some money. And then if a student, for instance, just can't travel in for any kind of in-person lab or something like that, or can't pay for babysitting because they're a single parent, those kinds of things, and so we're taking it really on an individualized basis. But you're right, Dan. Typically, students pay a small portion of the tuition plus their books and fees. Yeah.
Well, Laura, if you were talking to a director of another vision studies program and they were thinking about starting a VRT track, what would you say to them? And what would be the benefit? How would you what would you say to them?
Yeah. There's definitely a benefit, but I guess probably the first thing I would say is do some sort of a survey of I'm not going to use the word stakeholders, your agencies and areas around you, because uh, most universities, whether it's undergrad or grad, they will have a minimum student count that you can have in a course to have that course run. It is typically 12 students for an undergrad course and 8 for a graduate course. And that's been the whole challenge in the very long time I've been in the field, is that if you only have like 3 people in a course, then ultimately the university is not going to stand behind you keeping that track or that program. So I would do my legwork and make sure that there's enough interest. Of course, that means educating people because most people don't know that what we do or that it's available. So there ends up being some legwork in there, and it usually means some support just in referrals and recruiting and things like that from agencies. I'm not talking about monetary support. I'm just saying send your good people our way, and will that benefit you and us and hopefully folks who have vision impairment. So there's a little bit of legwork that has to happen. Dan, I know you remember there have been years where we might take in a group of 10,
Yeah,
and then there's years when we take in a group of 30. So, yeah,
yeah,
I'm sure you remember those years. So,
yes.
yeah, so really just making sure um, that you can have people participate. There's benefit all around, but do have to do some legwork to make sure that those courses are going to make, and how can you make them, how can you collaborate with other, like with rehabilitation counseling, and what courses might we offer that would be beneficial for their students, and do things like that. So it's different. I know that there are other programs around North America that who have really young students in their programs. We typically don't. Like I said, they're not old, but they're seasoned folks who have already had a career or two doing something else. So, and that makes a difference because typically those people are sort of settled and they're not, going to go run off 5 states away. It may be difficult for them to have an internship. So you have to really look at it from the beginning to the end of making sure we can support them like we need to throughout the whole thing.
That's really good advice. And a lot of organizations have been able to maintain their staff of VRTs by growing their own, so to speak,
Yeah.
where they will send them through our program. They find people they want to hire, and then they may, as an agency, cover the difference we don't cover when we do have the RSA grant, and then they
Yes,
make
that's true.
commitments with those individuals that when they're covering that difference, that they'll work for so many years for that agency for covering that difference, and it really helps those agencies to maintain their current level of certified staff. So.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you brought that up because most of the federal grants we have a service obligation, but that can be done anywhere in the United States or the freely associated territories. And but there have been different states, different agencies, like you say, that work right into the agreement. If we support you to do this, then you stay here for 5 years
Mhm.
or whatever. And that helps. So the person doesn't just get their degree or their certification and just fly off somewhere else to go work. So yeah, that happens a lot. And I think it's a win-win. So
Yeah. And I think it's absolutely worth mentioning again what you said, and that is working with the voc rehab agencies,
mhm.
the people that they are serving. Uh, this is a career that is fantastic for people who have low vision or blindness. That there are
Right.
people who have lived it, and then go and receive education how to help lots of people with lots of different kinds of visual impairments. They can do very well as a VRT, and so collaborating with
Mhm.
the voc rehab agencies to identify clients they're working with that would make great VRTs. That's a great connection
Yeah,
as well.
that's right. That lived experience really does help in so many ways, but also that mentor role,
Mhm.
um, changing the perceptions that may be really deep inside of a employer really wondering, can someone with a vision impairment do this job and things like that. And I think many of us in the field certainly know that that is not only possible, but it happens every day. It's great. But but sometimes even though employers want to say, oh, I know, they may have that niggly little, you know, wonder inside them. And so it's great. It's not a hopefully not a burden on someone with a vision impairment, but it's just an ability to just say, this is me, this is what I do, and I'm great at this. It's a great mentorship opportunity as well for others
Absolutely.
who who may have a vision impairment or be blind.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time, Laura. I really appreciate you having this discussion with me. And I think it goes without saying that anybody who sees this that would be interested in learning more about how to add on a VRT track to an existing vision studies program, we'd be happy to connect with them and
Sure.
help them problem solve how to make something like this happen.
That sounds great. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Laura. Take care.